Calvin Wentzel getting you ready for today's doubleheader in the WNBA semifinals. First up, we have Las Vegas and Connecticut going on at 1 p.m. on ESPN. And then we have Minnesota and Seattle going on at 3 p.m. on ESPN. Are they both on ESPN? Did I get that right, Calvin? I think they are.
I think the second one's on ABC.
It is.
Check.
It is.
Check.
Calvin
ESPN
is
and
correct.
ABC.
So we have 1 p.m. on ESPN for Las Vegas and Connecticut, and then 3 p.m. on ABC for Seattle, Minnesota. Great day to showcase the WNBA on the major channels. It's going to be a lovely day of basketball, and both these series have a chance of ending today. If Connecticut and Seattle win, that's it. We have our finals matchup set, and we will be going with those two teams into the finals. I think where we have to start, obviously, we're going to talk about the games that happened last week. We're going to talk, the games that happened on Friday, games 2 for the Lynx and Storm, and games in game 3 for the Aces and Sun. But I think where we have to start is the news that dropped right before we were getting ready to do this show. Derrick Hamby is out for the Las Vegas Aces with a right knee injury. If you watched game 3 of that series, you saw Hamby being she was just laboring down the court. She certainly felt like she was not 100%. Series, you saw Hamby the Aces suffered for it, and it turns out that she does have a knee injury that will keep her out not only for this game, but Bill Laimbeer says she's likely out for the rest of the season, however long that is for the Aces. So Calvin, just how important is this injury, and is there a way that the Aces can survive it?
They can, but everyone really needs to step up. Everyone, aside from Asia in particular. It's a big injury because, the Aces, with Derrick Hamby on the court, the Aces have been obviously struggling in this series. They've, they've put up their first 2 point totals in the 60s all season. They never had below 78. And let's say 62 and 68, right, in games 1 and their 2 losses of this series. Derrick Hamby wasn't necessarily giving them the same production that she did during the regular season anyway. She did show a little, a few flashes in this last game. She doubled her. She had 6 rebounds in this last game. I think she had 3 the first 2 games combined. So she was starting to come on a little bit. It's still clearly she wasn't right by the end of that game. But it's a huge loss. Any personnel loss at this point for the Aces is a huge loss because it's all hands on deck. The Sun are just kind of having their way in this series, and the Aces were one Asia Wilson furious minute away from being swept, to be honest. So it's a big loss.
No, it's massive, and I think just there's two things that are happening. First off, that front court is now extremely thin for the Aces. So from a basketball perspective, this is rough, right? Like Carolyn Swords is going to have to play a lot of minutes. We've been talking all year about how her minutes should be limited, but in a way now it's very important for them to get some quality minutes from Carolyn Swords. I don't think that's impossible. But other than Swords, there's not. It's Asia, Angel, and Carolyn who have played minutes in the front court for the Aces so far this season. This series. So you're going to have to get some from someone. I'm not sure if Sierra Burdick can play. Emma Cannon, she's on the roster. I don't know what she can give them, but obviously when we're talking about players who haven't played at all this season, truly, that's a problem. That's a problem when you only have 3 front court players, and especially if any one of them gets in foul trouble. And the front court for the Connecticut Sun has been dominating you all series long. Like this is very just a huge bummer too. And then the other aspect of this is from just like the mental perspective of Derrick Hamby's been one of your best players. She's been the heart and soul of this team. I think she's been the motor of this team at times. Obviously, Asia's the MVP. Asia's the one who scores points. Asia's the one who gets this offense going. But defensively, the mentality of their toughness and their defense, a lot of that comes from Derrick Hamby. And it's just, you look at your friend, right? It's your friend, and that person can't play in the biggest game of your season at this time. So that mental, there's just a mental hurdle now too to getting into this game for the Aces. I'm just not sure they can overcome it from either aspect. And that's not any shade to them. It's just this is a really, really, really tough injury for them right at this time. And especially when you look at the last game where the Sun beat the Aces 77-68 with another player who was injured that we thought would be out for the rest of the series, Alyssa Thomas coming back and having a wonderful game. Absolute monument to toughness. Alyssa Thomas, 23 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Obviously, that's what she does. But to do it after having such a bad-looking shoulder injury, separated shoulder that they had to pop back in, that she was crying about. And then, again, we're saying this is one of the toughest players in the league, and she was crying about how bad it hurt to get that shoulder popped back in, especially with her torn labrums already. I think it's labra. So I don't know how the Aces withstand it. Let's get into some of what happened in the last game. Past the Derrick Hamby injury, and let's see if we can find a way that the Aces get back in it. So the first things that pop out to me in the box score are offensive rebounds and turnovers. Connecticut won both those battles in a big way. They have 14 offensive rebounds to Vegas's 8, and they had 4 turnovers. Yes, only 4 turnovers in the entire game to the Aces 15. I mean, you're not going to win a game like that. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what team you are. Do you think that there's going to be some regression to the mean there a little bit for both teams, or was it just, the Sun doing something to the Aces to really cause all that?
I think you got to credit the Sun. I mean, the Aces have looked uncomfortable for 120 minutes in this series. Mm-hmm. Just they've been. I mean, part of that is on the Aces, obviously, making some ill-advised passes and just maybe trying to, when they get down, they've been in a position there they haven't really been used to being this season, and maybe just trying to force things a little bit. But I mean, the Sun are flying around; they're everywhere. And I look at Asia. I talked about, Asia Wilson maybe needing to step up and be better passing out of those double teams, as well as her teammates obviously getting open for her this past game. 2 assists, 4 turnovers. I don't think twice as many turnovers as assists is going to cut it from a player who's constantly, facing doubles, and the doubles coming from somewhere. Someone's open, I think Asia, and we talked about how thin the front court is. This is when you're the MVP and you're 23, 24, whatever she is. I think Asia's going to have to play 40 minutes today, first off, if they want to have a chance. And she's going to have more assists than turnovers if they're going to win the game. Because you're right, you can't 15-4, you can't win like that.
Especially when you're so reliant on transition. This team is built on transition. Like the Aces love getting out in space, and you know how you do that? There's 2 ways to get out in transition. Either you create missed shots, which they did pretty decently. Connecticut shot 39%, and they only shot 1 of 11 from 3. So you should be able to get some transition opportunities from those missed shots, or create turnovers, which is the much, much better way to do it. When you create a turnover, you have so much more time because the other team is not expecting to have to run back, at least on a shot. What Connecticut has been doing is they've been dropping all the way back and just hauling butt to get down to the other end. And it really worked in that last game. They held Las Vegas to 0 fast break points. But when you create a turnover, it's much harder to get all of your team back into position to defend on the other end. So that has to change. To me, that's the biggest stat that has to change. Yeah, offensive rebounds, that kills you, especially with the team that is trying to get back in transition so much. Like that wasn't necessarily the strategic goal of Connecticut, I don't think. I think there was just Alyssa Thomas and Bree Jones being absolute animals. They both have 4, and then Beatrice Montpremier got 3. So they really only have like 1, maybe 2 people crashing the offensive glass. And then you look at the disparity in the turnovers and you say that's kind of the big difference here in that game. And especially without Derrick Hamby, like you're going to have to get out and run. You're going to have to get out and shoot threes. I know that's a dirty word to Las Vegas. They did shoot they were 5 of 14 in the last game. Which is a lot of threes for them, and that's a decent percentage, 35% from 3. But you're gonna have to be even better in this game. I'm looking, Sugar Rogers has to have a big game. I'm not sure they've gotten a big game from Sugar Rogers this year. Did she have? I think she had 1 that she had like 13 points or something. But we're gonna need a throwback Sugar Rogers performance to when she was in New York, and playing those huge minutes and shooting a bunch of threes. So they're gonna need that type of performance, some sugar, and they're just gonna need to get out in transition and take care of the ball. I mean, Jackie Young had 4 turnovers. Asia Wilson had 4 turnovers. Like, you can't do that. You just cannot play that way. And a lot of them were also the type of turnovers that just drive you insane, right? Like, just long looping passes across the court against one of the best defenses in the league. Who loves this? Who's waiting on that? You can't give them that. Make them work for the steals. Make them work for the turnovers. Make them work for their points at the very least, right? Like, you may not win, but you can't make it easy for them. And I think they made it easy for them in that last game. Let's do predictions at the end, huh? How about that?
Let's go for it. I do want to add that this is an Aces team that led the league in lowest turnover percentage all year. So it's not like this has been a sloppy team, and this is just showing up now on the big stage that something they've been doing all year. This is a team that knows how to protect the ball.
They do. They're really good at it.
And you watch these last 3 games, you would have no idea.
It's incredible. I just don't understand it because like I said, like, yeah, sometimes you just have a game where the ball is slippery, right? And it's like, well, okay, that happens. Like, we're either the other team is hopping on all of our actions and they understand what's coming and they're watching film, and that's great. But this game, like, I didn't see that. It was just like, we're throwing these long looping passes and we're gonna let them get intercepted, and it's a pick 6. It's like,
and they've been doing it for 3 games in a row now. Like, it's coming at this point, right?
The Aces led the league. I don't know how to term this actually. They had the lowest turnover percentage in the league this year, 15.3%. Like, it has to be better. That's how you win games. I know it's driving Bill Laimbeer crazy. So maybe that turns around for them. I'm not counting them out. We're going to do predictions at the end. I'm not counting them out, and I'm not going to say they're definitely going to lose, because to me, they have a lot of talent. And I think they have a lot of guts too. So I think they get the turnovers in line. They get some more offensive rebounds. They'll be okay. Do want to touch on what Connecticut did, because if not, they're going to think we disrespected them somehow. We've already disrespected them by talking about the Aces for so long. But obviously, Alyssa Thomas is the engine of this team. She's playoff MVP to me. I don't even care. Honestly, I don't care what happens the rest of the way. If there was a playoff MVP award, which there should be, that's a different topic. If there was a playoff MVP award, she's already won it, because what she's done for this Connecticut Sun team is everything. She's done absolutely everything for this team. You look down the roster, though, tremendous play all around. I mean, Brianna January is, that dude, for lack of a better term. Like, I love her intensity. I love how smart she is on both ends of the court. Jasmine Thomas also playing great. DeWanna Bonner, not shooting great. But what do you think Connecticut to you? Well, what else would you like to see from them to make you feel, even better about what they've done?
Well, you mentioned it. DeWanna Bonner, needs to start shooting a little bit better. And I say needs. She doesn't really need to, because the way they've been playing defense, they can shoot as poorly as they want, and they're fine. They're still going to be in these grinded out games. They shot 39%. They didn't, as a team, they did, and they won the game. They don't need to shoot well to win these games when they're flying around and playing defense the way they are. But if you do advance, you face the Storm. I think you are going to have to shoot a little bit better than 39%. That starts with DeWanna Bonner, who should be their number one offense. They brought her in from Phoenix to be a scorer. That's what she does. So in terms of, what I would like to see from them, maybe that's you're nitpicking because they're playing so well, but that's what it is. But, just to go back to Alyssa Thomas a little bit, you mentioned her stat line, but the thing that stood out to me was 38 minutes. She played over 38 minutes. I mentioned on the last show, she's either going to play 0 or 38. I don't know why I thought, there was a chance of her playing 0. It was 38. And as soon as they left it up to her, she knew she was playing 38 minutes. I don't know why she didn't play 40, to be honest. But I hate talking about Alyssa Thomas, not because she doesn't deserve it, because she does, but because it makes me think about what it would be like to play with 2 torn labra, or however you say it, and a dislocated shoulder. And I hate thinking about it. It's physically painful just to think about it. But we have to talk about it because it's incredible what she's doing right now. So here we are.
I agree. It is painful to think about. And she plays such a rugged style that, it's not dainty, right? Like, it's not like she's playing softer because she has those injuries. She's playing harder. And I'm just so impressed by her always. I think she's had a tremendous series, and I think she's had a tremendous series, and I think she can pull this team as far as she wants to. But yeah, like you mentioned, like I knew as soon as we saw the report that, oh, it's a matter of pain management. I was like, she's playing. Pain management is not a thing to Alyssa Thomas. She doesn't care about pain. She loves it. So
she eats it for breakfast, man.
She eats it for breakfast. She eats a bowl of nails without any milk. Let's move over though to the other semifinals. We have about 15 minutes before the tip off of Las Vegas and Connecticut, which again you can catch on ESPN. And I think that's probably the game of the day for me because I want to see how much the Aces have left in the tank. As for the Storm and the Lynx, the Storm are up 2-0 in the series after an 89-79 win in Game 2. They look really good, and no team in WNBA history has ever come back from a 2-0 deficit in a best-of-5 series. So it's not looking good for the Lynx. I think they have a shot in this game. I think they had a shot in the last game, too. They just couldn't quite put it together. They didn't shoot as good as well as they did in the first game. And they also had some foul trouble. I think the biggest thing for them in that first half was Nafisa Collier got 3 fouls, and then Cheryl Reeve in a somewhat confusing decision to me. It's the traditional way to deal with 3 fouls in the first half, but she pulled out Nafisa Collier for essentially the last 8 minutes of that first half, and then right at the end of that, Seattle goes on a 14-0 run, and then from there, Minnesota did a great job to dig themselves out of the hole and make it close, but they just couldn't quite get over that hump. And to me, that was a key moment of the game. So, what do you think of just that decision from Cheryl Reeve, and how does she keep Nafisa Collier out of foul trouble?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with you. I think I would have liked to see Nafisa Collier be on the court. Maybe not that whole 8-minute stretch, but for at least a minute or two here or there in the second quarter.
Yeah.
There's that saying sometimes as a coach, you foul out your own player.
Yeah.
You put them on the bench, and that's just as good as being fouled out from the other team's perspective. And at some point, you gotta, I get that Nafisa Collier's in her second year, but she's really more like in her 37th year.
Yeah.
Talk about how
feels
the way she plays, and yeah, it feels like it. And I think at some point, you got to trust your star players, to manage their fouls and to play smart, and to stay on the court. You never want to question Cheryl Reeve in the playoffs, but I do think I would have liked to see Nafisa Collier, because that's where the game was lost. They lost by 10, or that 14-0 run did them in. They were climbing out of that hole for the rest of the game. They almost did, but they can't dig themselves that early of a hole, in Game 3. So I would like to see her on the court. Some things I did like from the Lynx, though.
Okay.
I loved that they went right to Bridget Carleton on the first play of the game. We talked about her when she's guarded by Sue Bird, taking advantage of that matchup and taking advantage of the size. And even if Bridget Carleton is not known as a post player, going to her in the post, they started out with Jewel Lloyd on Bridget Carleton in this game rather than Sue Bird, and they still took her down into the post. Scored right away first play of the game, and then they got Damiris Duntis going. 3 threes in the first quarter after she shot 4 for 14 in the first game. Duntis,
famous.
Yes, Duntis. Did I say Duntis?
I don't know what you said. I'm making that joke all the time, though.
To
Duntis.
Everyone involved, if I mispronounced that, Duntis. Anyway, so I loved what I saw from the Lynx early, especially in the first quarter there, in terms of the offense that they're running. I thought Crystal Dangerfield handled Seattle's blitzes and traps pretty well throughout the game. So I definitely think the Lynx are in it. They've shown a lot of good signs, and they really haven't, with the exception of a couple runs here or there, like that 14-0 run with Collier on the bench. I really don't think they've been out of either of these games. They were down 20, but they clawed back in. What did they come to within 4? So
they were within 5 at the end of the third quarter.
Within 5, there it is. So they're in it, but like you said, no one's come back from down 2-0, and I think the Storm just have too much.
Yeah, I've been saying this all playoffs all season. Like this, here's a Miami Heat counter. the Minnesota Lynx and Miami Heat have a lot of similarities in the way they play, and I think they both teams don't let go of the rope ever. That's that's a saying that gets thrown around a lot. I think it's true for both these teams. They never ever let go of the rope. They always believe they're in the game. They always have a run in them to try to get back into it. The only problem here for the only difference between the Miami Heat and the Minnesota Lynx is that Minnesota is playing Seattle, and that's a dominant team, and the Heat have yet to play such a dominant team. I don't think Seattle has been like an unstoppable power in these playoffs or even in the last game. It's just when you play them, you almost have to be perfect, because if you make one mistake on defense, even for a second, they're gonna get you. They know exactly how to play with each other. They know exactly what you're doing. They know exactly how to expose whatever mistake you make. So I think Minnesota played decently well, and maybe against another team, it would have been okay. They would have been in it at the end, but against Seattle, it's very, very tough to overcome making mistakes. 9 turnovers is not a ton, and they actually won the turnover battle, but those 9 turnovers cost them more than it did going the other way, even though they have more points on turnovers because of how well you have to play against Seattle. And I think in game 1, they got really close to having a perfect game, and that kind of gives me hope that they have another one in them. And I think they can win this game. And if this was a 7-game series, I'd feel much, much better about the Lynx chances, because I think they can get this one tonight. But they weren't perfect, and you need to be perfect. So good. You got to put your hats off to the Seattle Storm, who played a great game again. It's not necessarily the best game. I don't think they've put their best foot forward yet in these playoffs, like I mentioned. But Jewel Lloyd had 20 points. Brianna Stewart had a really bad game and still finished with 17 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. So you kind of throw up your hands, because she was 4 of 13 from the field. She was out of it, but she was still finding ways to contribute, and she did a great job. Alicia Clark's always going to do what Alicia Clark does. And I think the biggest thing for Seattle in this series is actually how well Natasha Howard has played. She had 13 points of 6 of 8 from the field, 5 rebounds, and assists. Just really nice performances from her on both ends. I think her getting, I don't know if it's healthy, I don't know if it's into it, because in this season, I didn't think she played particularly well. She's been playing much better in the playoffs. So we have 7 minutes now. I think it's probably time for predictions. Let's do it. So let's start with Minnesota and Seattle, game we just talked about. Game 2. This is kind of like fight for your lifetime. Not kind of. This is fight for your lifetime if you're Minnesota. And I think they have enough fight to win this game. I think they'll come out with a good plan. I think they'll certainly play better than they did in that first half, especially if Natasha Collier's able to stay out of foul trouble, which I trust her to do. I also trust Cheryl Reeve to say, hey, you got to play, because we're going to need, we can't go down. We can't have that 14-0 run. So I trust both those things to change. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota here in game 2 to elongate the series by a game. What about you, Calvin?
Well, I do think Collier is going to stay on the floor, and that is going to be key. We didn't even really mention it, but the offense just looked so vastly different with her on the bench. They started jacking threes, and they're a good 3-point shooting team, so a lot of them went in. I don't know if Shay had that graphic on the shooting percentages. Lynx shot much better from 3 than they did from 2 in this game. With Natasha Collier on the bench, though, they really struggled to score at the rim against that Seattle defense. I think Collier's going to stay in the court. I'm going to go with the Storm to sweep, though. I think Jewel Lloyd has been too good. There's a few things we don't talk enough about on this show. It's the Miami Heat. There's Gabe's haircut, and there's Jewel Lloyd. And I think we need to give Jewel Lloyd some more love for what she's been able to do. She may have been their best player so far in these first 2 games. We talk about Brianna Stewart had a couple. She was 7 for 20 in the first game, 4 for 13 in the second game. She's one of those players who can quietly somehow still fill up the stat line even when you don't feel like she had a good game. But she's had 2 down games from a shooting perspective, and Jewel Lloyd has really picked up the slack in that department. I think she's going to have a good game again, and I'm going to go with the Storm to sweep.
Okay. So we're going head-to-head there. Oh, let me pull up the lines actually while we're talking. I'll let you make your pick for Las Vegas and Connecticut while I pull up the betting lines here.
All right, we do have to do against the spread. That's a good call. So yeah, for aces, Sun, man, I don't know. I hate making this pick, because I feel like I'm always wrong, and you just don't feel like the aces have really had it this whole series, and now they're without Derrick and Hamby, and everything is pointing to the Sun winning, and you feel like as soon as you pick the aces, the Sun are gonna channel that disrespect thing, and they're gonna make you look stupid. But
they sense it. They said
it's like that. They don't even have to watch me talk. I'm sure none of them are watching me talk. They just know. It's like in their bones. They know when someone's talking bad about them. It's in the universe. It's happening somewhere. I don't know, man. I hate making this pick, but I gotta roll with the aces to send it to 5. Honestly, I think I just feel like we might see something interesting in the same way that when Reiner went out for the Mercury and they had to change the way they play and change the way they ran lineups, and it somehow worked better. And I don't know what Bill's gonna do. We've talked about how he's a stubborn 80s guy, and he's probably not gonna change things in this way. But you could put Angel at the 4 for a while. Honestly, play a little bit of
I think that's what he's gonna have to do.
I hope he does. It's not his style, but I would like to see it. We saw Angel finally coming out of the locker room in that last game, in the third quarter, started to really look like playoff Angel. I think she was aggressive. She took like 4 threes in the span of 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe it was 3 threes, 2 for 3, I think. She was looking to score as soon as she touched the ball. If you weren't up on her, it was going up. If you were up on her, she was driving, getting to the rim. That's the Angel that I like to see. And that Angel from the 4 position is interesting. If we get any of that today, as opposed to just giving Carolyn Swords 32 minutes. I hope we do. I would love to see it. I think something interesting is going to happen, whether it's Angel at the 4, whether it's Asia's going to have to play 40 minutes, like we said, and maybe has another game 2 performance in her. I think the Aces are going to pull this one out, though.
Okay. I disagree. I think the Sun are going to take it. I just think this is going to be a Dewana Bonner game. She's had too many bad games in a row. Not bad, but just like not that great. And I think she is going to have a favorable matchup, either against Jackie Young, or Angel McCoughtry, just depending on how they do these matchups. And I think she'll be able to eat up a little bit, especially without Hamby in there, because I think Hamby's been a big force as to why her shooting percentages are down. I do want to give you the lines though. So Las Vegas is favored by 2.5 against Connecticut. So pick this game against the spread.
I'm gonna go under. I think it's gonna be a 1-point game.
Okay, so you're picking Connecticut +2. +2.5. I'm obviously picking Connecticut, obviously +2.5. I actually just took their money line, which is +125. Seattle is an 8-point favorite against Minnesota. I'm going to take Minnesota to cover the 8-point spread right there.
You were taking Minnesota to win, right? So
I did take Minnesota to win. That's right.
So
I'm much more confident with the 8 points.
Yeah. I'm going to take Minnesota too, and then I'm taking Seattle to win, but I'm going to take Minnesota to cover the 8 points.
Okay. So Minnesota's going to cover the 8 points, and we have Connecticut both covering. So that's going to do it for us. We have about a minute here before the game starts. Remember, it is on ESPN. We hope you guys have a lovely time watching the games at your home or wherever. I mean, no. Just watch the games at your home. It's very important that you stay at home. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. Stay at home, watch the games, hang out. It's going to be a lovely, lovely day of basketball. We have these WNBA games, and we have an NBA game tonight involving my Miami Heat. So it's going to be fantastic. We will be back for potentially the WNBA finals. Who could have guessed it? We might be here already, or we might be back for the final games of the semifinals, whenever that is. We will let you guys know on Twitter. Make sure to follow at @HerHoopStats to get all the news, all the things. You can follow me on Twitter at Gabe_Ibrahim. You can follow Calvin on Twitter, CWetzel31. We didn't even mention Shay because we had so much going on. Shay is our producer. She's amazing. She does all of the things that actually make the show look good. We just kind of sit here and talk. So go ahead, enjoy the games. We hope you guys have a wonderful time, and we'll talk to you guys soon.